Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Theater of Football. I'm Mike Hodem, and I'm joined by Patrick Heinrich. Hello, Patrick.
Hey, Mike. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining today.
Yes, hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And we'll get to previewing United's match with Newcastle on Saturday. But we want to talk about a couple different things first. Patrick, who has been your surprise team so far this year in the Premier League?
Well, I would have to go with Aston Villa. They've been my surprise team, but close second is well, I'd say close second is probably Tottenham and Everton that are equally surprising to me. I know Everton's probably on the top of other people's lists, but I think Aston Villa has been most surprising.
That's interesting. You mentioned Tottenham. Any reason in particular they're impressing you?
Well, I think that they've made some. So in some of the signings that they've made, I thought they have meshed well into the team surprisingly well, or surprisingly quickly. So that's kind of why they've jumped to the top of my list. Aside from their victory over United, I mean that factors very little into that surprise based on how we played. But I think that they surprised me most because I didn't expect it.
That's fair. You could have said that because I think they scored 5 goals at St. Mary's against Southampton. They scored 6 against us, of course, and but they scored 7 against Maccabi Haifa in the Europa League to qualify for the group stage. So for Mourinho to be such a defensive coach, defensive-minded manager, they seem to be at least a few games this year so far. They've scored for fun. So. That's interesting. I would, yeah, I wanted to talk about Aston Villa and Everton. Some people may mention Leeds United, but I think the verdict to me is still out on them. I think I'll wait for them to play 10 games, and if they keep getting points, then maybe we'll bring them into the discussion. But you have Everton, who have spent a lot of money bringing in players or bringing in the next big thing in management, and they went to an old head. A manager who I always really liked, and Carlo Ancelotti. He got things kind of turned around when he first came to Everton last winter. But then things kind of went back to, I don't want to say normal, but they fell off again a little bit. But they had some smart recruitment, I felt like, in the summer transfer window, and they're top of the table right now.
Yeah.
4 wins out of 4, I believe. And looking pretty good. They brought in James from Real Madrid. I never really rated him as being, world class. I always thought he was a decent player, but I never thought he was world class. But he's started off well in the Premier League, so more power to him. Of course, Aston Villa, 7-2 against Liverpool. Pretty crazy. So they've won all 3 of their games so far. So pretty exciting stuff there. Right, Patrick?
Yeah, I think what Aston Villa for me, I think it kind of sets them up and makes them a little bit more surprising. I think is how well Ollie Watkins has been been acclimating to the team, and I think that was very surprising. And I do think it also surprises me that I'm kind of seeing some renewed vigor out of Jack Grealish. So I think the chemistry that they've brought in this year, that is what's been really surprising me, and how well everyone's been clicking on the Villa team.
Yeah, they had a rash of injuries last year, pretty much, almost double digits in their treatment room, similar to United. So they struggled there. They were newly promoted before last season, and they stayed up on the last day. Looked like they were going to get relegated for the longest time to me.
Yep.
And yeah, you brought up Ollie Watkins, and I really don't think there's much of a good track record of bringing in strikers from the Championship. But he could be the exception to the rule because he's hit the ground running. Hat trick against Liverpool. Looks like a good signing. I've seen him play a couple times in the Championship, and he never really looked overly impressive to me. So I guess it wouldn't be surprising that the scoring record would dictate a Premier League club comes in for him. So a club like Aston Villa would pick him up, but it looks like it could have been a shrewd signing. They had trouble scoring goals last year. And you brought up Jack Grealish. Of course, United interested in him. Didn't happen. He signs a new contract, and he has a reliable target man to provide service to now. So yeah, he probably is feeling better about life than he was maybe 8 months ago. So
yeah. And I think to round it all off, I think when they brought in Ross Barkley from Chelsea, I think that to me kind of rounded out that really impressive kind of forward line that they have. So that to me, I think has been most impressive. And Everton, I think I thought bringing in Doucouré was a really good idea too for them. And I think that's paid off a lot. But to me, the reason that I think of Aston Villa a bit more surprising is because I think they've had more signings that have worked better, just a little bit better than Everton. But so that's why they're at the top of my list.
Yeah, Doucouré was one of 2 players I thought that definitely warranted a move to a much bigger club from Watford. So the other hasn't happened yet, but I think it might, as the domestic window, quasi window is still open for another week or so. I think until the 19th.
19th.
So, they both made good use of their transfer windows in the pandemic. I mean, they did a good job. United didn't. Other clubs I don't think did necessarily. Of course, I mean, United was probably easily the worst. So, speaking of the transfer window and United, we have a good goalkeeper named Sergio Romero. You may have forgot about him because he's not on our Champions League roster. He was supposed to move to Everton around the deadline, but supposedly it fell through because we were haggling over a couple £1 million. I don't know the truth in that. Since after it fell through, Everton, meanwhile, went on to get, I believe, Robin Olsen from Roma. So no chance of that being resurrected probably in January. But Romero's wife took to social media to claim that, our treatment of him has been poor. And I'd have to agree with her because he plays in other competitions beside the league. We get to the semifinals, he gets dropped for De Gea, and De Gea does nothing to cover himself in glory. When we started this channel, Patrick, we were saying that Romero should be the number 1 instead of De Gea, weren't we?
Yeah. That was one of our first episodes.
and now he's I guess 4th choice on the fourth peg on the totem pole below Lee Grant now,
which is surprising to me. Talk about shockers.
Well, on the Daily Mail, so take it with a grain of salt. Yeah, on Monday, I read that some of the dressing room is disappointed with how he's been treated. I'll touch on that more in a minute. But then on Tuesday, it's being said that he's willing to. He just wants his contract to be over. He just wants it to be ripped up. He doesn't even want any buyout or payment. He just wants to go. And I guess he's rumored to be going to our land, Patrick, the MLS. So, first of all, do you think, like me, that he got a raw deal? And secondly, back to the Daily Mail story about the dressing room being disappointed with his treatment, with how he's been treated by the club. Do you buy that? And do you think that could be an issue if you do?
Oh yeah, I absolutely buy that. I do think he has been poorly treated. I mean, he was doing really well in Europa, and we yanked him and put in De Gea. I thought that was like the first kind of slap across the face. And then, what?
The first slap across the face was when he got pulled in the FA Cup semifinal.
Yes, no, yeah, you're right. That was the first slap across the face. Yeah, the first slap across the face was him getting yanked once. The second slap across the face was him getting yanked again. Even after we had a whole episode about how disappointed we were in De Gea getting added in or getting put in as the keeper for the FA Cup. Not that our channel carries much weight in the inner management of United. But that's right. I know Kieran McCarran is a frequent watcher of our channel. That carries a lot of weight. But I thought that was kind of, pulling him in those 2 tournaments, I thought was kind of a slap in the face. And I think not including him in the Champions League roster would be my last straw. And I can't blame him for wanting to just rip up his contract and take a pay cut to go to the MLS or go anywhere else. So I can totally believe that's the case within the United locker room.
Yeah, I think, with the Champions League roster, you have limited space. Teams usually only save 3 spots for goalkeepers, which makes me think that there's already something in the works to get him on his way. So, yeah. But yeah, we talked about this. Luke Shaw, I believe, commenting after Crystal Palace about lack of reinforcements and how bringing in reinforcements lifts the squad. There hasn't been any other than at that time Donnie, and the squad is kind of flat. And people may like that as a shot at the Glazers and Ed Woodward, whatever. I didn't like it because I didn't think it's an excuse to play as poorly as they did in that game and as poorly as they played in just about every game. However, this is something that I feel can really hinder the dressing room, because I feel like Romero is probably a pretty popular player. He seems like he always seemed like he had a good attitude.
Yeah.
When he's played, I can't recall one big mistake he made at all. I think there was a match in Bruges where they had a breakaway and he got criticized for coming off this line too early. But it was Luke Shaw actually that made the mistake that led to that goal, in my opinion. But that's neither here nor there. But I think he's a player that is well liked. He seems like a player that would be well liked. He might not be a leader per se, but that doesn't mean he's not well liked. In fact,
at least well liked. He has experience. Those things carry a lot of weight within a club. I think he's been around. So I think that he's kind of been a little bit of a mainstay, I think.
Yeah. He's been reliable. And he's had some great games, I feel like, and people may be like, oh, well, he didn't have to, he usually he doesn't play in the big games. So I'm not we've seen De Gea make too many mistakes where he would have made those mistakes in against any team.
Yeah.
So I'm not buying that argument at all. But yeah, I think when you look at this situation, I think it really would, if I was a player in that dressing room, I would be kind of upset by that, because you don't know who might be treated that way next.
Right.
If you see a player every day and you might not even be friends with him, but you see him practice, play hard, train hard, be ready when called upon, it wouldn't sit well. This could be bad for Ole. I don't know how much of this is Ole's doing. He's decided basically to open up a goalkeeping competition between De Gea and Henderson and excluded Romero. But as far as Romero still being at the club, I doubt Ole had much to do with that. I think if it was Ole in charge of it, he would have just gone ahead and taken the money from Everton and let him go.
Yeah. Take the money. We need the money. Buy another player. you know. And it's not like it's not like this I thought wasn't coming. We've known for a while that Dean Henderson was coming back, and we've known for a while that that Romero was getting pulled for De Gea. So it's not like although we talked about it a lot in our kind of wish list, it's not like Romero was going to become the number one. So at that point, we should have made the sale a lot earlier, in my opinion. And it's not to say that, I do think that the club has kind of done Romero wrong, but at the same time, they can also make amends a little bit by just pushing a deal forward and getting it done and getting him transferred off.
Yeah. Agree completely. And don't let him, at this point, give him some compensation if it's just, we're going to tear up the contract and you're free to go wherever you wish. least give him some. Don't be like, oh, you don't want any money. Okay, then that's great, fine. You know, and he was on. I don't know his exact number, but he wasn't on high wage. He wasn't on very high wages. He's probably one of our lower earners, given his CV, the number of caps he's had for Argentina. I saw his weekly salary a while ago. I can't remember the number, but I remember that was like the most surprising number of all the players, was that he was making that less. I thought that he would be making double than what he was making. So I was like 40K a week maybe, which, you know, you and I would take. But when De Gea's on like 300K a week, I don't.
Yeah.
You don't see like 8 times the performance out of De Gea that you do out of Romero.
Let's just put a nail in it and say he makes less than Phil Jones, and that's all we'll say.
Yeah, he does. He does actually. Yep, you're right. That list, Phil Jones was ahead of him. So, speaking of Phil Jones, he could make his return this Saturday when United go to St. James Park. You excited?
Oh, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. I'm counting down the days. I've got the celebration already. Obviously not.
So, Patrick, I've been talking on here for, since halftime of the Spurs match, that Ole will go to a back three. I'm not a big, I'm not a fan of having 3 at the back. I don't think I don't like it, but I kept saying that he's going to go to a back 3. He's going to go to a back 3. Early team news: Cavani won't be available for Newcastle due to quarantine rules, self-isolation rules in the UK. He comes out of isolation on Sunday, so too bad that game's not Sunday. But he will be available if he's fit and ready to play for our match next midweek against PSG. But focusing on the Newcastle game, of course, Martial suspended. So I was talking with Jeremy on Sunday, doubled down on the 3-5-2 formation, based upon us signing Alex Telles. You put him on the left as left wing back. You give him a little less defensive duties so he can do what he does best, which is push forward. And you solidify. I mean, whenever teams go through defensive troubles, they put 3 at the back. They go to that 3-back system to add that extra defender to hopefully cope with their issues. And then when things get better, they go back to a back 4 and start shipping in goals again, and then go back to back 3. It's just madness, just constant cycle. Patrick, make me stop talking.
Well, the one thing I would say to that is, I think if there's one thing that our formation needs is more cycle. I think we need to change it up a little bit, and do something a little bit different. So, but I agree. I think a back 3 is what we'll see on Saturday, in the match on Saturday. It just makes sense, especially when you factor in Telles.
Yeah, and then the point I got away from, the first point, which was that Cavani and Martial won't be available. So you pretty much have 2 forward players that I would feel like you have that Ole, maybe myself too, maybe Rashford and Greenwood are the only 2 I kind of rely on or feel confident with going forward.
Yeah, Greenwood and Rashford.
Yeah, you play them up top. They kind of got a little bit of a taste for it during the second half of the Spurs match when Ole played basically a 4-3-2. Didn't work out well as we didn't have much of the ball, but hopefully we'll have a little more ball. The other thing I wanted to get to, if he plays that system and he goes with 3 in the midfield, who would be your 3?
Well, I think I don't know. Who would be your 3? Let's go with that first.
Well, I would like to see Bruno, Donny, and Nemanja, because Madic has retired from international football now, I believe, with Serbia. So he should be fresh, I would think. He has a fortnight off. Then Donny just should play in front of Pogba right now, in my opinion. And then Bruno's Bruno. So
all that was going through my head when you asked me that question was anybody but Pogba. Anybody but Pogba.
Yeah. I mean, we talked on Sunday. I did with Jeremy about Pogba's recent comments of he was flirting with Real Madrid again in a French press conference. He seems to go away with France every other time he's in a press conference, and he's flirting with Real Madrid. I think he was asked if he was offered a new contract yet with us, and he said he hadn't been talked. He hasn't spoken to Ed Woodward, so he doesn't know of anything. And then he got asked about Real Madrid. He's like, "Oh, it's a dream of any young player to play for them, so why not me?" I would bench him for that, actually. I mean, I would bench him anyway, but if Ole needs an excuse outside of his poor play, poor performances, I would say be like, hey, you're not playing against Newcastle because of your comments, but
yeah,
you can play against PSG. Like,
yeah.
I would just sit him the one game to send him a message.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have benched him after the last 15 minutes of the Tottenham game and for what he said about Real Madrid.
Yeah. And then if he plays another couple stinkers, then be like, okay, now you're being benched because you're just not as good as the other options.
Yeah. Well, also the thing about benching a player for making kind of statements about moving and transferring to another club is almost, karmic punishment for that, because then they don't get any more play time to show off what you can do and, impress the other club. So I think it's a good a good sign of, if you're going to go out in the news and, spout about joining another club, then you're not going to get much play time. So you're not going to get a good deal.
Well, it's funny you say that because Højbjerg of Spurs, one of the new signings I think you like that you feel like he's meshed in well. You didn't mention him, but you said, but he's played a lot along with Reguilón, and they seem to have gone into the side right away. But he was at Southampton, and he said he wanted to leave to join a championship club, and the manager said, okay, then don't come to training anymore. And I don't think he featured for them after lockdown. And then he said, and then the irony is no Champions League club was interested in him. So he ends up going to Spurs, who are, of course, in the Europa League, and had to go through 3 rounds of qualifying just to officially make it. So Spurs may well be in the Champions League next year. So I'm sure he's not. But just ironic that he would say, I want to go to a Champions League club, and then he joins a club that's in the Europa League.
Yeah.
I guess Southampton was in the Europa League. So. But so let's get to prediction time, Patrick. Actually, first, predict who will be at the back. Not who you think should be at the back, but who Ole will pick at the back. Will it be a back 3 or a back 4, and who will it be?
I think it'll be a back 3. I think it'll be Lindelof. I question. And again, this is what I think, not what I want. I think it'll be Lindelof. I think that we'll see Axel out there. I think Ole's been talking quite a bit about him, and with the kind of recent question, I know we didn't touch on it much, but about Bailly and whether he is or isn't injured. I think Ole probably won't want to risk it. So I think we might see Axel out there with Lindelof and Maguire in the middle.
I actually think that's the smart play. Bring him back in a game that we should win. We went there and lost last year, but it's a game that we should win. Mm-hmm. Play him in a back 3 where there should be less pressure on him. Mm-hmm. Hopefully he comes through this game uninjured and plays well. I don't think Ole has anything to lose, and it's a good situation for the player, because then we have this horrid run of games.
Yep.
Having said that, I think it'll be a back 3, but I think you're going to see Maguire in the middle, because that's where you stick your slowest or baddest or worst defender. You're going to see whether or not Bailly's injured or not. Won't matter, because you're going to see Lindelof come back into Maguire's right, and then you're going to see Luke Shaw play left center back.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So I think that's what's going to happen. But I like your idea better, because Yeah, you get Tuanzebe. Maybe he'll play Shaw with Maguire into Tuanzebe instead of Lindelof.
See,
I don't know.
That would be nice. I would actually like that. I still think Lindelof should be in the bench.
Yeah. I don't think him being on the bench and us giving up 6 goals to Spurs necessarily absolves him of any wrongdoing.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
No. Well, thanks, Patrick. And before we get you going, what's your score?
Gosh, I'm gonna go. I think we're gonna squeak one out. I think it's gonna be 2-1 United.
I'm going 2-1 Newcastle.
Okay. I would have thought that was bad luck, but
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go the pessimistic route on this one.
Always the pessimist.
Not always.
I thought we turned this around earlier this year, Mike. I thought we were thinking optimistically.
Yeah. Well, until they give me one good performance where that'll last me for 2 months of optimism, I feel like I have to go this route.
That's fair.
But
that's totally fair.
Maybe my pessimism will be like a reverse jinx and they'll actually play well then.
I agree. I'll go with that. I'm optimistic about your pessimism. How does that sound?
That's quite a statement. You use a lot of big words there. All right. Well, I go find a thesaurus in a dictionary. Patrick, I want to thank you for joining me. The curtain is now closing on the theater of football. For Patrick, I'm Mike. And if you have any thoughts on our predictions or teams for Newcastle on Saturday, or thoughts about Romero or surprise teams in the Premier League, hit us up on Twitter at Theater of Football. So long, everyone. Have a great rest of your week.
See y'all. Cheers.
Oh, hello. Thank you for watching the Theater of Football. If you think Mike got it wrong yet again, please leave your thoughts in the comment section below.